Hi there, everybody. Welcome to the Town Hall. I'm Kate Wells, Schafer. Remember, you can text us your questions to 716-849-2220. The top story on the Town Hall tonight is legalized marijuana in New York. The Cannabis Control Board met today, where they explained some new regulations and guidelines for the budding cannabis industry. Legal marijuana storefronts aren't expected to open up in the state until at least 2023. Joining us live tonight is Joe Schafer. He's an attorney with Lippes Mathias. Joe has been following all of the developments with the new cannabis law in New York. And Joe, we're so glad that you're with us to help us understand a little bit more about what's going on here. You know, we mentioned off the top there that the Cannabis Control Board met today. So let's start there just with the basics. What were some of the decisions and recommendations that they made today? And are they what you expected, or what really stands out here? What do we need to know?
Yeah, Kate, thanks for having me on. Really excited to talk with you guys about this. I know this is obviously a topic that's been covered a lot, and while we've tried to analyze bits and pieces here and there, we finally actually got some news out of Albany yesterday. It was first reported that the Cannabis Control Board, and this kind of came out of nowhere, that the state will be releasing conditional adult use retail licenses, meaning there will be dispensaries in New York State. And the exciting thing about that is they are planning to open them up by the end of 2022, which is different from what we'd heard previously. We were hearing retail sales would go live in April of 2023. Now, this operates in conjunction with some of the conditional cultivation licenses, which there was a recent bill passed allowing farmers to get seeds in the ground. And as we know with the supply chain, once the seeds go in the ground, then we can start growing the cannabis, processing the cannabis, and ultimately selling it. So the big news on the conditional adult use retail licenses is that it's going to be limited to be between 100 and 200 applicants, and these applicants have to meet specific criteria. And there's two criteria. You have to have either yourself or a close family member, immediate family member, with a cannabis conviction prior to the passage of the MRTA, which was March 31st of 2021. And you also have to have a 10% ownership share in a business for at least 2 years.
So Governor Hochul has said that she wants to create the most diverse and inclusive marijuana industry in the country. What exactly does that look like? What does that mean? And did any of the decisions today by the control board move the state in that direction?
Sure, it's a great question, Kate, and it's been a huge topic of conversation because the two main tenets of the MRTA, our state's legalization bill, have been to generate tax revenue for the state and also to help those communities who've been disproportionately impacted by cannabis enforcement. So what this bill does is it attempts to kill two birds with one stone by prioritizing those folks who've had previous marijuana convictions, and also ensuring that those folks who are going to be applying for these retail licenses are, successful business owners. We've heard that, the Cannabis Control Board, as part of this application process, is going to evaluate specifically, what your business experience was. It's not just anyone with a cannabis conviction, but it's cannabis conviction as well as some retail experience or as well as some business experience. They want to make sure that, the state is prioritizing those folks who have been disproportionately impacted and those communities specifically, and then also that these businesses are going to be successful. And we've also heard a lot about the Social and Economic Equity Fund, and these individuals who will be applying for these licenses have access to a potentially $200 million worth of capital that the state is allocated specifically to help these retail locations.
So, Joe, now that we have a little bit more information, I wanted to ask you about the so-called sticker loophole. It's something that has allowed vendors to gift marijuana to people who buy something else, so like a sticker or a T-shirt, and we saw several pop-ups offering that last summer into the fall. Did the control board address that today?
Kate, these sticker shops, the pop-ups, whether it's a T-shirt or a sticker or a gift, these have been a pretty big topic of conversation for folks, and we get a lot of calls asking, what the legality of this. And while the Cannabis Control Board and Office of Cannabis Management didn't discuss this specifically today, the Office of Cannabis Management sent out cease and desist letters a few weeks ago to at least 24 operators saying, hey, we're aware of what you're doing. And while you think that this may be a gray market, there is no such gray market. All of this is deemed the sale of quote unquote illicit cannabis, which means untaxed cannabis. And it is not only illegal, it will potentially cost you a license down the line if you intend to apply for a full-time or conditional adult use license. We are aware of this, and if you do not stop immediately, you will be prohibited from receiving one of those applications. And there's also associated criminal and civil penalties, misdemeanors, and also substantial fines depending on how much cannabis you are gifting or selling, or however you'd like to characterize that.
So Joe, very quickly to wrap up here, what is the big takeaway from the decisions made today? It sounds like there was more movement than maybe you were expecting, and how is it ultimately going to impact consumers and how soon?
Sure, and I'll admit to you, Kate, I was a little bit blindsided by this great news, is because they are what the state has done, and you guys said it in the introduction. We waited for a really long time. I mean, the MRTA was passed in March of 2021. Here we are in March of 2022 with no licensed shops. So what does this do? The conditional cultivation license allow farmers to get their seeds in soil, in the ground, in their hydroponic machines by April 1st, which puts them on target for an October harvest, which then puts the processors on target to get their products in the stores. And those stores should be open by November or December of this year. So the big takeaway is we could see retail cannabis sales before the end of 2023, or excuse me, 2022, excuse me.
Yeah, you're probably so used to saying 2023, it seems weird to say 2022 all of a sudden.
I have to correct myself. Yeah, it's apparently a bad habit, but look, it's a good one to be able to correct now.
We've been chatting with Joe Schafer, an attorney with Lippes Mathias. Thanks so much, Joe, for joining us tonight on the town hall and walking us through all of this. There's a lot of information there. We appreciate your perspective.
Thank you, Kate.